Hi, I'm Brandy with the Springs Preserve. Let's talk about seasonal rotation. At the beginning of any season, there are several measures you can take to ensure gardening success or improve upon your past successes. Will you be using your garden throughout the year or only in certain seasons? You can always leave a bed empty or fallow. Cover crops can be used, and once they're done for the season, they can be cut and added on top of the soil or tilled in once they're done. They help to protect the soil from eroding. As they break down, they increase soil fertility and quality. They suppress weed growth and help with pest and disease problems. And deep-rooted crops like cowpeas help break up hard soil and move nutrients to lower depths. You'll use different crops depending on the region you're in and the season you're planting. Before you start planting, think about what you like to eat. Consult a local planting calendar. They're incredibly useful for helping make seasonal lists on what you'd like to plant in different seasons. Remember that a lot of seed packets or plant labels often don't apply to our unique conditions in the Southwest. Just because plants are in local stores also doesn't mean they're well suited or that it's the right season to plant them. Other parts of the country might be planting tomatoes, for example, when we're just finishing. Once you've made some decisions for the upcoming season, there's a few measures you can take to help your plants perform well. It's really important to rotate crops each season, and that simply means moving different crops to different beds or different areas within a bed each season. This helps to reduce nutrient depletion, it helps reduce fertilizer use and pests and pathogens and the spread of disease. And if you aim for a 3 to 4 season rotation, that helps keep most problems from becoming harmful. If you don't have 3 or 4 beds to rotate within, you can rotate in sections of one bed each successive season. But record keeping is key so you know what you've done in past seasons, especially when you're gardening with groups. Some crops live many seasons or years, so plan their placement accordingly. For example, asparagus, globe artichokes, some peppers, strawberries, and many herbs will live for many years. So you don't want to put them right in the center of a bed where you might need some other large plants in a successive season. A ton of information is online and in books talking about crop rotation. You can learn which plants belong to which family first to really help you understand what needs to be rotated. So we'll talk about some of those today and what you might be commonly growing. But the goal is to rotate different families into those different areas because some families are specific to some soil-borne diseases or pests. So alternating planting keeps those levels at a low enough number that it doesn't become a real problem. Let's start with the Solanaceae family. This is the nightshade family, and we're familiar with a lot of plants in this group, including tomatoes, peppers, tomatillos, eggplants, and potatoes. These are all in the same family, so we'd want to plant them in one location in one season. Moving on to legumes, these are fantastic. They're beans and peas, also peanuts, and what they do is fix nitrogen in the soil, which is fantastic. They take atmospheric nitrogen, fixing it in an available form to plants in the soil level, so whatever's planted there the next year can benefit from that added amount of nitrogen. Then we have Brassicaceae here. This is a very vast group. A lot of these, interestingly though, are related. They're going to be the same species, just a different variety. They get along well together, and these are going to be planted all in one slot when you're rotating plants. The Amaryllidaceae or allium family, familiar with these as seasonal or seasonings. Green onions, leeks, garlic, onions all belong in that family. The Cucurbitaceae or the gourd family, melons, gourds, zucchini, squash, cucumbers all belong into that family. The Chenopodiaceae or goosefoot family will be spinach, beets, and chard. And then there are a lot of other families, many of which can be interplanted or mixed with other crops, including a lot of herbs. In addition to crop rotation, something to think about are companion plants, and these will include a lot of herbs and a lot of flowers, and they have a lot of purposes. They're beautiful, but most of them also are going to attract pollinators. They'll repel pests. They get along well with almost every other plant, so they can be interplanted. Again, you have to follow the local time that you're going to be planting seasonally. But in addition to some of these herbs and flowers, nasturtiums, calendula, marigolds are really well known for serving a lot of those needs that you can get with companion plants. Most food crops are heavy feeders. They require a lot of nutrients during the growing season, so it's important to regularly amend your soil on a seasonal basis. You can do this easily by adding compost, which adds nutrients to the soil, it increases beneficial organisms, and improves the overall health of the soil and therefore the plant. Reduces disease problems, because stressed plants are susceptible to pests and disease. In addition to compost, some organic materials you can add to beds include composted manure. Just want to make sure it's fully composted so it's not too hot because it can burn plants. Also that it's been well rinsed so the salts in the urine are flushed out. You can use disease-free leaves, untreated lawn clippings, or worm castings, which are gold because the nutrients are immediately available to plant. You can use fertilizers, either organic or synthetic. They have different concentrations of nutrients. NPK is what's going to be listed on most packages, and that tells you the concentration of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium and the ratio found within. There are also many macro and micronutrients that are needed by plants and that are found in a lot of fertilizers, but since NPK are required in large quantities by most plants, that's generally what you're going to find listed. Also bear in mind that synthetic fertilizers, you want to know the source of where that material came from and follow instructions carefully because the nutrients are readily available. They can easily burn plants if they're used in too high of concentrations, leading to some salt burn. You also could use mulch on top of your garden bed. Mulch is basically just bark or wood chips, and it's different than compost. You don't want to put any compost or mulch ever around a tree trunk. It can cause some problems. Give yourself a foot or so. But mulch is chunky. You can recognize that it's a wood material. You know where it came from. Again, this should just be used on top of the soil only, because if it's mixed into the soil and it's freshly chipped, it can actually draw nitrogen out of the soil, and that can be a problem because it makes it immediately unavailable to the plants in that surrounding area for several months. It helps to retain moisture when you add mulch to the top of the soil. It moderates the soil temperatures below and helps to suppress weed growth. If you're going to use mulch around larger plants, it's no problem. Just push it around the base of the plants, but if you're going to be seeding in beds, you need to scooch the mulch layer completely to the side until the plants have germinated and gotten large enough that you can gently place the mulch around the base of those plants. Rubber mulch or dyed mulch can leach hazardous materials into the soil, so I would avoid those for use, especially in edible plant beds. Remember that healthy soil creates healthy roots, which leads to healthy plants. Don't forget to harvest your plants. Some plants can be continually harvested, some are harvested just at the end of the season. But plants like lettuces and many greens can be continually harvested, and all that needs to be done is they can be cut away from the outside in, they grow from the center out. So if you are hungry for a salad, you simply just go outside, remove your outer leaves, and it will continue to grow from the center, and you've got enough for you to make a salad and keeping your plants growing for several more weeks or months sometimes. Plants like tomatoes, a lot of peppers, strawberries, things like that, you can continually harvest as they ripen, so make sure you watch them and don't let them go directly to the compost. You want to save seed from any strong plants you have. Maybe there was a plant that performed really well in the heat of summer when everything else was very stressed. Those are very strong plants that might be better adapted to our environment. Save the seeds from those plants to grow in following seasons. There's a few other steps that you can take seasonally, including checking for leaks. Check for irrigation leaks at least seasonally to make sure you're not wasting water, and reprogram clocks as necessary or required by local agencies. Make sure all emitters are working and that the duration that you're running your timers is adequate to really soak the root zones to the right depth and width. Planting areas need to be saturated to the right width and depth. So for most vegetables and perennials, that's about a foot. For shrubs, it's 2 feet, and for trees, a minimum of 3 feet. Flush your bed seasonally, allowing water to run through the whole root zone and the bed just to make sure any salts are not allowed to be built up. Once the planting is complete and the soil's been amended, it's time to replant or reseed. After all this work, keep good records. It's really important in schools, especially with multiple groups using one space. You want to know what you've planted, when it was planted, what crops were rotated into which beds, how old the seeds were and what brands you purchased, any pests you noticed, what dates and any treatment if you took any, fertilizers, compost, when and quantities applied. So you want to track all of this so you know your successes and you can compost any failures and learn from those mistakes. There are lots of easy ways to keep notes. You can just write this on a calendar, keep a gardening journal. I always have a phone on me, so sometimes I'll just snap a picture of a seed packet. It's time stamped, I'll take little notes, and then I can transfer that to something later if I choose to. So with all this planning and preparation work, you can easily make adjustments seasonally and improve on your past successes.